Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first PureClarity podcast with me, Andre De Guy. This is a series of podcasts that we're going to be doing with some key partners just to get their insights on their particular specialisms and their industries. It gives me great pleasure to have a special guest on our very first PureClarity podcast, Ben Taylor from Taylor Digital. Ben, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Good to have you. Good to have you. So yeah, obviously this is all about, asking you about your particular industry, about what it is that you provide for your clients. So I guess, to kick off with, but PureClarity, we're all about adding value to clients. So how do you add value to your clients at Taylor Digital within the marine industry?
Okay, yeah. So what we do is, I suppose we're a digital agency, marketing agency that brings technologies into the marine industry. So from the marine industry side, we are, I suppose we're a guide to say, look, this type of technology is out there, and this is what it could do for your business. And then from that, we have technology partners that are specialists in different areas, and so we address mainly business function technology issues within marine businesses.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of marine then, what attracted you about marine? Obviously, prior to working with you, I knew absolutely nothing about marine. So it was great to kind of learn about the industry from you. But what was the attraction for you with marine in the first place?
Yeah, it's a really interesting industry, actually. It's very niche. It's a cottage industry. That's one of my favorite terms to describe it. Everyone knows everyone, and it is super niche. The different verticals are actually quite varied. So you can go from kind of marinas and their business model. There's all the insurance and finance side of things, and then you've got the boat brokerages and equipment and supply chain and everything like that. And I stick to marine leisure and super yacht sectors. I don't go into the commercial sector with shipping and oil and gas and that side of it. Sure. But it's marine leisure. It's all the kind of it's quite sexy products all the time, and it's yeah, exactly. It's like market that. That's fairly easy to get a lot of attention, but it's super cool. But my reason for going into it was really genuine interest. For what we do in marketing, it's applicable across the board, and it's like pick your. But we specialized in the marine because we saw this disconnect between the understanding and use of technology, and its current uses. So that's why we went for it from a commercial perspective. But also from a personal perspective, I've grown up around boats. I love them.
Okay.
I free dive, sail, everything, and I can't get enough of it. So it just aligns really well.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds great. So obviously we both work in digital, and I'm really interested to hear from you about the digital uptake within marine. Is it something that they're well versed in? They're looking at? Is it something that there's still a way to go? How is digital perceived, and how's technology perceived within marine?
Okay, so how do I say this without being too controversial?
Be as controversial as you like.
Well, okay. The industry does not use tech very well at all. It is amazing. It does blow my mind sometimes. Initially, when you find that out, you think, well, this is high value products in the industry. Their experiences and use of tech should be really good. There should be a really good commercial use for that. And there is. The disconnect is the understanding of how to leverage that. So a lot of the leaders in the industry are older. It's a very, I call it prehistoric, but that's a bit extreme. They're just like 10, 15 years behind with technology. And so because you've got these decision makers that are not necessarily so tech savvy or haven't been forced to move on from old ways of operating a business into the more modern digital communications and things like that. They just haven't. They've had no need to. And one of the big things that the industry has experienced is everything around boat shows. So there's a number of international boat shows throughout the year. There's enormous costs associated with them because they're
I can imagine.
international, and to
Yeah.
exhibit something like a boat or to have a stand at these types of exhibitions, it's very costly. But it works in terms of communicating your product to a fairly niche audience, and
Sure.
it's where the industry meets. This year, everything's been shaken up, right?
Of course it has. Yeah. And I was trying to go through this first podcast without mentioning the C word, but
Yeah,
let's talk about.
we already know what it is, right? So, so with 2020, these boat shows can't happen. So
Of course.
that stopped, and so a lot of these businesses have then gone, right, how the heck do we communicate our product without going to exhibit at the Monaco Yacht Show, or without going out to Met's Trade in Amsterdam, or the Southampton Boat Show? So they all stop, and then all the businesses go, what do we do? And so immediately we've seen this. Well, an obvious solution is tech, in terms of all their business functions, really. So you've got this influx, and I think it's the commercials that have driven it. So it's actually not a choice anymore. It's, if you want to operate a business that's not doomed to dying, then you must start leveraging tech, because there will be companies that do leverage it, and they will have capabilities beyond yours as a business.
Absolutely. And that is such a competitive thing now, isn't it? People have to look at tech or get left behind. And that's absolutely crucial. And I guess that's a key mission of yours, to try and get people to understand that you need to be investing in this technology. But let's talk tech. I mean, obviously, it's my favorite thing to do. Technology. What technology gets you excited? What do you really get buzzed up about when it comes to tech?
Okay, so the tech that gets me is something that's developed but still fairly new. So works and has a really obvious value proposition that's I suppose could be defined as an unfair advantage.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily hugely expensive. It's not groundbreaking, first ever in the world. But by knowing it and using it effectively and leveraging it, then you have a definitive advantage. And so that's quite good, but that can be applied to a lot of different types of tech. So something I've been looking at is virtual technologies, especially virtual reality, augmented reality.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's there, especially on the kind of virtual showroom scene and things like that. And then there's things like AI and your tech at PureClarity. Websites obviously need to be that step up now, and they need to be a lot more engaging. And the more engaging and personalized, in this case, it is, then it's going to be more effective, and so you get that edge, and you progress towards this unfair advantage from leveraging technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's kind of about the human benefits of that as well, because I think, tech has got to have a purpose. I mean, personally, I love to see a really cool piece of tech that's, potentially got no purpose. It's just really cool and it's really well put together. But ultimately, what people genuinely want, who perhaps, aren't buzzed up about just a cool looking piece of tech, is how does it benefit? And I guess, that's the the testing point for a piece of tech, I think, commercially, is how does it actually improve people's lives? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's I think tech's getting to such a level now that there is a bit of I suppose it's an ethical question that's starting to come forward, as well as a commercial question.
Yeah.
I think it's got a long way to go before it is genuinely ethically concerning. But it's starting to become the conversation, right?
Absolutely, it is. And I've been having a lot of conversations actually recently about, tech versus human during the sales process. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that, actually, because for me, tech is essential in that process. But I think when it comes to sales, the human element is so important, because I personally believe in emotion as part of the sales process. And I think that's obviously something that's difficult for machines to do. But what are your thoughts about tech versus human in the sales process, and how should it be weighted? And yeah, how do you see it being in the future, given that the tech is advancing so far?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'd say it's not actually a matter of tech versus human. I don't think it is a one or the other, and that's it. I talk quite a lot about this topic, but I've kind of ultimately concluded that it will be a hybrid scenario. Certainly, well, it already is really, but I think that will always be the combination that wins. And so there will be elements of technology that might create that initial engagement and just to communicate the product on a fairly basic level before you start to look at the human engagement to generate that personal relationship, the emotions, and get that connection with someone that's so powerful in closing the sale.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I totally agree with that as well. I think it has to be a combination of both. I think where the tech can really help is taking away the painful bits, the repetitive bits. As a human, you go, oh, I've got to do this again. It's a repetitive task, or it's looking at data, trying to, manually look through data. Let a machine take care of that. It's boring. Let the tech take care of it. So,
I've done it, and so certainly repetitive tasks. I think there's a fear of kind of mass unemployment or something crazy that's in people's minds that kind of alludes to, well, machines will be able to do all our work. I think it's actually more of just the evolution shifting, and so there will always be need for a human because of our capabilities versus machinery. There was the same fear as farming was the big employment industry, and we got machines to replace that. And what do you know? 50 years later, it's not nobody's got any work to do. It's just changed the nature of the jobs that humans do, and so I don't really fear it from the unemployment or a kind of scary world where everything's a robot, and we just kind of sit on the sofa and consume Netflix. But I think it's exciting for sure. But on the kind of hybrid side of things, for the live events, so we've just done a digital networking event. It's the first one that British Marine, who are the federation for the marine industry in the UK, it's the first one they've ever put on. And so we've had feedback from that actually saying this was amazing, and this is the first opportunity for them to engage with other marine professionals since February it was. And actually there's been some people that have said, you know what, once there's no more regulations and things, still not said the C word, once there's no more regulations, actually we would still support a digital networking event like this, because they've not had the cost of traveling down to the South Coast, hotel overnight, meals, etc. And to be honest, they did more networking because they were forced into a room of 5 people that they may or may not know. And you're already kind of in that social group, because at every networking event, right, there's all the groups, and if you're alone or it's a new scene, you end up on your own, and it's quite difficult to break into those groups. But with the capabilities, even fairly straightforward capabilities of Zoom, it's just you're straight in there, and it's really effective. And so you do your networking within a space of an hour or two, rather than taking 2 or 3 days of your working week away.
Absolutely. It's that direct connection, isn't it? And being in that room with people. Obviously, I attended one as well, and I just found that direct connection really useful, because there's no awkwardness about it. You're there, you just talk, and you just connect. It's not kind of bumping into them at the show, and it's a little bit awkward. So no, that's good to hear it was so successful.
And that bridge now for you to then go from that digital interaction into actually meet them in person, that's a really nice small step rather than going in cold and being the first handshake when you've never met them before in your life. You don't know what they do, and you're just like, "Hello, we must meet for some reason." I think that would be incredibly powerful.
Fantastic. So I guess want to talk a bit about Black Friday. We're rapidly hurtling towards Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So keen to get your thoughts about how it might be different this year, if at all. I'm not going to say the C word again, but if you think it's going to be different, how do you think it's going to be different? And are you going to keep a keen eye on things?
Yeah, so I think it was always going to grow. I think it will continue to grow as the years come in. I think how companies leverage that event and target it as a Friday that was already a big shopping weekend into this is when you do your Christmas shopping. I think that as a movement is really powerful because it gives people a defined point to say this is when you should be shopping, rather than Christmas Eve or the day before. And also marketing that to build up this anticipation, the buzz, and everything around it. That again touches into those emotions that impact the purchase decision. This year, I think this year it will be absolutely crazy on through e-commerce. I think certainly in the UK, goodness knows what will happen in the US. In the UK, I think it will look very civilized on the streets if the government even allows it to happen. But I think the big dominant e-commerce sites will see huge engagements and will be the winners in terms of the sales and everything. I would actually go as far as I've told some people I know that I would get the shopping done before that event because I see logistical issues happening after that will just be so massive, especially with regulations, that actually who knows if you get your stuff before Christmas. I've no idea.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think this year could be the biggest ever. And obviously, as you say, e-commerce is going to be huge. Everyone's going to be doing their shopping online. And I think it's maybe a bit concerning for some of the smaller, medium-sized e-commerce retailers because can they cope? Hopefully they're geared up, they're prepared for this, they're able to fulfill all the orders, they're able to get things shipped out. But I think, as you say, there could be real logistical issues, so thanks for reminding me. I'm going to start my Christmas shopping now.
Cool. I got one last night. I got a wetsuit. I've got a 7mm wetsuit, so I can dive all year round whenever I want, and I love it.
Fantastic. That sounds good. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Ben. One more question before we wrap up. So we talked about the tech that excites you, that gets you buzzed up. Is there any tech that scares you? Any technology you think, oh, that's a bit too soon, or that's a bit concerning? Anything that scares you in the technology world?
I don't know. I'm really not sure. I think it's it might actually be data, and I'm absolutely fine with a company knowing what my interests are and advertising the products I like. To me under personalized ads and interactions. That's fine by me. Do that because I don't want to know about other products. I just want to see what I want, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's perfectly justifiable. I think the extent that companies can then use that, especially looking at this gap in terms of what big tech has in terms of its power, I think that's a scary amount of power. I won't go too much into that, but for a company to hold, I think that would be so powerful that it's the unfair advantage, but it's I think it's so difficult to compete against that actually the evolution of companies and who dies out and grows and everything like that. I think it would be impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. Actually, I think it's for me. It's not the collection of data that scares me. It's the use of that data without my knowledge. And maybe I've ticked a box somewhere and I haven't read the small print. If people read the small print, I think they'd realise that actually their data is going to be used. But I think for me, I think it's fine for a technology company to use data. Data drives a lot of these systems that are there to help. I think it's transparency for me about that use of data. So yes, we're collecting this data. I'm telling you we're collecting this data and this is what we're using it for. And by the way, we're not selling it to anyone and we're not doing anything evil with it. It's the transparency for me because, we're all about tech's there to help. We are collecting data, but we're actually giving you a better experience. And we're using your data to actually help you and make your life better essentially, rather than, sell it to some random third party and, we know everything about you. And that is scary.
Yeah, but I think that's it's from the consumer perspective of trusting that too. It'll be a really difficult thing to do because I'll happily buy something offline through a credit card. Do I think, that company now has my credit card details? I'm fine with that as a company. If it was to an individual, I'd weirdly be a lot less trustworthy, even though there's individuals behind that company. It's just the way it's constructed. It's
perception thing, isn't it? Yeah.
But with social media, fintech companies, that side of things, that's quite scary stuff. Yeah,
it is. But there we go. Ben, this has been fantastic, really insightful as usual. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining the very first PureClarity podcast. And guys, look forward to the next one. We'll be releasing another one soon. Ben, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Take care.